It started as a cargo run, 5,000 tons of drone components moving quietly through the Caspian Sea. It ended with the ship upside down, its hull breaking apart as Ukrainian drones circled above. What no one realized then was that this was only the first act. Each UJ-26 had been designed for a synchronized four-way strike, connected through a pair of relays that never lost signal, even under jamming. That coordination raised one chilling question: if supply ships are no longer safe at sea, what is, and how do invisible frequencies decide who wins the next war? Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. For years, Russia's S-400 was called the impenetrable wall. Every missile, every aircraft, every drone supposedly stopped before crossing its invisible fence. The system stood as the crown jewel of Moscow's air defense network, designed to see and destroy anything moving across hundreds of miles of sky. Each array of missile tubes rested beside the massive 92 N6E gravestone radar, its dish sweeping the horizon with quiet authority. Russian television celebrated it almost weekly, showing animations of enemy bombers cut from the sky in glowing arcs. Defense analysts across Europe echoed the praise, calling it a benchmark of modern surface-to-air defense. The result was a weapon surrounded by legend, one that seemed untouchable even before it was fired in anger. That reputation didn't come only from technical prowess. It was built through years of propaganda, demonstrations, and military parades. The S-400 was shown as proof that Russia could defend any city, any base, and any border. State media went further, claiming it could detect stealth aircraft and shoot down hypersonic targets. Western intelligence reports repeated the Russian claims cautiously, but rarely challenged them. The myth solidified. Breaching it was viewed as suicide. In the early phase of the war, Ukraine discovered just how hard that wall was to test. Their first long-range strike attempts were tracked and destroyed before getting anywhere close to meaningful targets. Those failures weren't only physical losses, they reinforced an idea that the S-400's reach and precision were absolute. Inside Russian command centers, radar operators watched grids that pulsed like tight-knit fabrics wrapping the country. Every dot, every flicker on the display was catalogued and compared with flight data. The operators believed nothing could cross unseen, yet the flaw didn't lie in what the radar saw, it lay in what it chose to believe. Ukraine's engineers began to wonder how much of that impenetrable wall depended on perception. The more they studied intercept patterns and radar reflection data, the clearer the imbalance became. One S-400 interceptor missile could cost $2 million. The projectiles it destroyed, cheap drones, modified rockets, homemade munitions, might cost less than 1/100th of that. For every shot Russia fired, it bled precision hardware that couldn't be replaced quickly. What began as a financial observation turned into a new kind of warfare experiment. Instead of trying to punch holes through the shield, Ukraine started looking for ways to overload it from the inside. Teams of electronic warfare specialists and drone programmers tested methods of confusing radar sensors, creating phantom targets, and pulling interceptors away from real strike paths. They learned from smaller engagements near the Caspian Sea, where Ukrainian electronic jammers interfered with a North Korean-built cargo ship that never made it to its destination. That episode exposed how sensor networks relied on predictable signal behavior. Once disrupted, the entire command chain momentarily froze, unsure what to target first. Those results gave shape to a broader plan: attack the S-400, not through armor, but through its logic. Researchers worked through endless cycles of trial and error, studying how the gravestone radar managed energy across its rotation angles, how long it took to lock onto a faint signature, and what kind of signal overlap could make it see ghosts. The pattern they found was startlingly consistent. Overstimulate the radar grid just beyond its threshold, and the system would open up every available defensive channel, revealing its own coordinates through active emission. By midwinter, Ukrainian scientists had assembled a $2 million network of coordinated decoy systems capable of triggering precisely that response. Each component was tuned to emit false telemetry within specific radio bands invisible to conventional detection. This network wouldn't need to destroy anything directly. It would invite the S-400 to destroy itself by wasting missiles on illusions. Belgorod, a Russian hub bristling with air defense units, was chosen as the real test ground. There, the myth of the untouchable wall would meet an enemy it was never trained to fight. Deception engineered through mathematics, timing, and silence. 6 missiles, each traced on radar like luminous spears, streaked toward Belgorod, but none were meant to hit anything. The launch window was calculated to the second. At 3:17 local time, 6 M31 GMLRS rockets took off from shallow camouflaged pads near Kharkiv, their trajectories set to arc high enough to be seen by Russian early warning systems. To anyone watching the radar feed, it looked like a precision strike aimed straight into the industrial heart of Belgorod. In reality, those rockets were bait, part of a $2 million deception operation built to expose Russia's most guarded air defense system. The decoy plan combined American-made technology with Ukrainian adaptations. Two distinct components carried the illusion forward: Skyville, a mobile electromagnetic deception platform, and Echo's Swarm, a cluster of microgliders acting as low-altitude radar distorters. The Skyville units began broadcasting fabricated missile signatures across several frequency bands, timed to synchronize with the rising M31s. The Echo's Swarm flew in staggered formations just above the tree line, reflecting radar returns that mimicked incoming cruise missiles traveling at subsonic speeds. To any S-400 operator, it appeared as though multiple waves of high-speed threats were moving in at once. Panic settled into the Russian control room as simultaneous radar contacts began multiplying. Operators watching the 92 N6E radar arrays identified targets crossing into range from several angles. They reacted exactly as planned, activating the S-400 Triumph system and distributing tracking assignments to fire control radars around Belgorod. Once the tracking locks engaged, each battery prepared to launch interceptors worth millions of dollars against signatures that didn't actually exist. That chain reaction marked the moment when the decoy operation became self-sustaining. The false heat signatures, radar echoes, and coordinated timing convinced the system a massed rocket strike was underway. Ukrainian designers had spent months studying those radar thresholds. They knew the gravestone radar operated within rotating energy arcs that adjusted automatically with target velocity. By forcing simultaneous detections, they pushed it past its safe tracking limit. To maintain lock on all the phantom threats, the radar had to rotate faster and broadcast at higher energy, inadvertently revealing its coordinates to Ukrainian signal intelligence teams waiting across the border. The S-400, once invisible in its silent surveillance mode, suddenly glowed on every spectrum monitor within range. As the intercept missiles launched, their bright trails cut across the night, the costliest fireworks imaginable. Each interceptor, worth several $1 million, chased a ghost target across the empty sky. Within seconds, Ukrainian monitoring stations triangulated the gravestone radar's location and transmitted the coordinates to strike drones already in flight. A second wave of compact drones followed, flying low and hugging terrain to stay beneath radar view. Their payloads weren't aimed at the air defense sites directly. Instead, they targeted Belgorod's critical energy infrastructure, the thermal power plant feeding the defense grid. When the first explosion hit a transformer unit, the cascading failure began almost instantly. Circuits tripped, auxiliary stations went offline, and the entire city dimmed to black. In under 12 minutes, the balance sheet of the engagement was staggering. Less than $2 million in Ukrainian hardware had provoked the launch of over a dozen Russian interceptors and temporarily shut down the command nerve that controlled them. The so-called invincible wall had been blinded not by superior firepower, but by misdirection finely tuned to exploit cost asymmetry. Every ruble spent on defense was forced into waste. Modern warfare now rewards silence, misdirection, and precise timing over sheer power. The Ukrainian decoy operation proved that the most advanced systems can be blinded if struck at the right moment. Across research circles, this is reshaping how militaries define strength. Electronic deception, swarm tactics, and operational timing are now treated as weapons, not support tools. Nations are reassessing what their budgets really buy when illusions can defeat billion-dollar defenses. The line between offense and defense grows thinner each day. If a $2 million trick can bring down a billion-dollar shield, what does defense even mean anymore?